I have a pair of backup glasses which are being finicky here. Good morning, everybody. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome to New Jersey and to Bergenfield High School the U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. Such a treat to have you here, Mr. Secretary. Bless you. I want to thank Superintendent Dr. Chris Tully. I'm not sure if Chris came out with us. Principal Jim Fasano and their extraordinary team for hosting us and so many elected officials and other dignitaries here today and for showing us around. I would be remiss if we didn't also thank the students and educators who welcomed us so warmly and graciously into their classrooms. Bergenfield is a great community in Bergen County in New Jersey, and to putting some proof to that, it's my second visit here this week. Also, we were alongside Acting Education Commissioner Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan, and I want to give a shout out to her. And we are proud to hold Bergenfield up as a model of the tremendous progress New Jersey has made statewide in creating the safe environments where our students and educators and support staff can get back to the business of in-person instruction. Bergenfield is one of the now more than 400 school districts that is open for 5 days a week in-person instruction. More than 360 other school districts are open for part-time in-person instruction through a hybrid schedule. Together, districts, charters, Renaissance schools, and special services schools serving more than 95% of all students in New Jersey are now open for in-person instruction. Only 7 remain in an all-remote position. We have been focused on returning safely and responsibly our students and educators to their familiar classrooms for one clear reason. They are each at their best in classroom settings, and we cannot understate the impact the return to in-person instruction has made on parents as they have begun to return to their workplaces. The support of President Biden and Secretary Cardona has been crucial to our success, and I thank you, Mr. Secretary. The billions of dollars offered to our educational communities through the American Rescue Plan are ensuring that our schools can get back to where they need to be without unduly burdening taxpayers, many of whom are undertaking their own economic recoveries after a hard year. New Jersey is incredibly proud of our ranking as home to the best public education system in the nation, and we are committed to ensuring that every school and every student finds a home under that banner. We are the first state in the nation to make an arts education accessible to every child, and we are the first state to make climate education part of our K-12 student learning standards. Come the fall, when the new school year opens, we are not only committed to ensuring that every student and educator is back for in-person instruction so we can build on these successes, but we are requiring it. And with the continued support of the Biden administration, I know we will have a truly successful end of this school year and a great school year to come. I once again thank the Secretary for visiting us in New Jersey today, and with that, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. Mr. Secretary,
Governor,
God bless you, man.
Thank you. So glad to be here. Thank you. I read a sign inside that says, "Children come first." And here at this school and in the state, it's clear that children come first. Students belong in school, and that's what we saw today. I don't have to tell you that the $130 billion from the American Rescue Plan, the intent there is to get students in school as quickly and as safely as possible, to address some of the barriers that led to students coming into school, and then that it created new work and different work and challenging work to engage families that experienced trauma during the pandemic. But we're at a point now where collectively we can experience signs of recovery. Signs of recovery. And I saw that here today at the school. I walked in, I saw students learning, seniors learning, talking about graduation in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, their plans for post-graduation. I walked into a classroom, we walked into a classroom and we heard a band playing. They had the covers on their wind instruments to make sure that they're not spreading air. So they did all the right things to make sure that the arts is alive and well in their classrooms. I visited, we had a conversation with juniors and seniors, and we learned that the softball team here won the championship yesterday. Signs of recovery. Signs of recovery. The experience for these students is more normal than it was 3 to 4 months ago, 12 months ago, because of the work led by the governor and the principal and the superintendent and the commissioner to make sure we're keeping children first, making sure we're providing opportunities for students to learn in the classroom where they learn best, and make sure that we're providing environments for our educators to be safe and effective. I tip my hats to the educators who've worked tirelessly to make it happen. The look on their faces is another sign of recovery. We're going to build back better, and we're going to reimagine our schools. And as I said in the past, the goal is not to get to where we were in March 2020. It's to aim higher. And yes, it takes resources. The American Rescue Plan is intended for that. But it also takes strong leadership. Leadership that gets us to 95% of the students in the state of New Jersey having an in-person learning option. I'm excited about the future of New Jersey and our school systems here. Because I know that we have leaders that are working really hard to make sure all students have opportunity to learn in the classroom where they learn best. Thank you. Thank you for the
Mr.
visit.
Secretary. We'll take a couple of questions.
Take a few questions.
A couple of questions. Anybody? Madam Chairwoman? I think that's right. Right. Yep. You bet. I'll give you my quick answer, but I'd love the Secretary to give an overall frame. He's forgotten more about this than I will know, so I will stipulate that. We've already put a significant amount out. To your very good question, a good chunk of it is per capita based, but there are also specific programs that we've put out toward learning loss and mental health realities. And each school district, you know, one of the great things that we're proud of our #1 in the nation, but we've got over 600 different school districts, and we've got over 800 different districts or schools. So each one is a hand-tailored reality. So it could be ventilation systems in one school versus a very different use of money in another. Commissioner Alan McMillan and her team are providing framework guidance for our districts. But beyond that, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. And that's a great question, right? The resources are only as good as the strategies that are intended to address the effects of the pandemic. And we know learning loss or lack of access to learning is a significant issue. But we also know at the Department of Education that teachers, principals, superintendents, and states know their schools best. They know the needs there. And they know, as the governor mentioned, in some places it might be ventilation. In some places it might be access to wraparound services that are needed most. We know, and we've heard, I've visited about 9 or 10 different states, we know that better social and emotional well-being strategies and access to mental health for our students and families is going to be critical. But what we did at the department was to make sure that when plans are being developed for the states, they consider addressing inequities that were exacerbated by the pandemic. We know that inequities existed before the pandemic. They were made worse. So that's #1. And #2, we made sure that plans included stakeholder engagement. And what that means is we wanted to make sure that the states listened to those who were affected by the pandemic, listened to the educators that know their students the best, listened to the district leaders that know their communities the best. And through that process, with a focus on equity, we know that these plans are going to address the needs of the students and of the communities at large. Yeah.
Well done. Maybe 1 or 2 more.
Yeah,
Brent.
So dozens of superintendents say they want clear, concise guidelines and protocols for the coming school year, and that includes no masks. Is there any chance, I know you said it's likely that they will have masks, is there any chance that could change by September?
Yeah, yes. The answer is there is a chance. I mean, last year, Mr. Secretary, one of the questions we're getting is, do you think you'll have masks in September? And I said, listen, I started answering this last week. As of this moment in time, given vaccinations have only just begun for the 12 to 15-year-olds, and we don't have an authorized vaccine for the under 12 yet. My guess is, trying to predict today, the answer is yes. Having said that, we put our guidance out, full, thick booklet in June of last year for what reopening would look like, and we tweaked it a number of times between June and September. I'll put on my epidemiological hat and say 3 months from now might as well be 5 lifetimes in a pandemic. Right. So the answer is absolutely, our minds are open. Does that sound fair?
All armchair epidemiologists.
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly.
And I think, one thing that's not negotiable is that the expectation is there that all students have in-person learning opportunities, right? We know that's where they learn best. But as the governor stated, even in my role as commissioner in Connecticut prior to becoming Secretary of Education, I knew that the pandemic will drive the decisions that we make, and that we had to work very closely with the health experts to determine revisions to guidance, and make sure that, above all, we're leading with health and safety of our students and staff in all the decisions we make. While I'd like to predict that we're going to be able to reopen schools in the fall without masks, I'm going to lean on my health expert partners. Dr. Walensky and I talk regularly to make sure that we maintain that level of confidence that's needed to reopen our schools by ensuring that health and safety drive every decision.
Really well said. One more, sir.
Yesterday, New York City announced they had 0 deaths from the coronavirus. How close are we in New Jersey? And maybe is it regionally, town by town?
Listen, I hope so. I don't have today's numbers, but the past few days have continued a really good trend. I'm knocking on, this is not wood, but I'm knocking on proverbial wood that we get to 0 deaths sooner than later. My guess is we will, and please God that we get there. Maybe one quickie.
Yeah, hi. Secretary, you talked about how you hope when the schools reopen, they won't look necessarily like they did when they closed a year ago. What is going to be your hopes and dreams? What's going to be the biggest difference tangibly for parents and students? Is it use of technology? Is it going to be different schedules? What tangibly is going to be different in your hopes?
It shouldn't be lost on us that this is the closest we have to a reset button on things that we know didn't work in education. So I ask educators, families to think innovatively about what we can do differently to meet the needs of all of our learners in better ways than we have now. So we need to revisit things that we've taken for granted or things that we've expected to be the norm, such as seat time, such as how we engage families, how we engage student voice in their learning process. One thing we did in education, I commend the educators across the country. They went from in-person learning to fully remote learning within a matter of a week. Many districts didn't have the resources, but they made it work. They fed millions and millions of children in a new system that didn't exist 3 weeks before. So it was amazing what was accomplished under that level of urgency. I hope that level of urgency continues to address those inequities. Specifically, we could be talking about students taking courses that might not be offered in their school, but it's offered in another school in another part of the city. Well, now they can be taking those online. Maybe our vocational programs, our CTE programs, have a second shift for students that want to take advantage of courses, or families or parents that want more skills to join the workforce. So there are so many options, and I know that the innovation doesn't live in D.C. only, so I'm excited about the opportunity to hear from local leaders, local educators, to make sure that we build back better in the fall.
I'll give you one example, Mr. Secretary. We talk about the success we had in closing the digital divide. We had 231,000 students in August of last year, August of 2020, who either didn't have the device or internet accessibility. We brought that to 0. Now, we think of that in the context of the kids learning remote, so he needs the device and the connectivity. But I think it opens up enormous opportunities for even an all-in-person setup that we will have in the fall. I want to thank Dr. Cardona, Secretary Cardona, for his visit, for his extraordinary leadership. I want to thank the President and Vice President, President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, And this guy has been he's become an instant friend over the past number of weeks, and I think he's doing an extraordinary job. And we wear your visit, Mr. Secretary, to New Jersey, to Bergenfield, right here in Bergen County, as a badge of honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, man.
Great seeing
Good
you.
luck to you, brother.
Likewise.
Phone call away.
I'm going this way, so
Yeah.
you're going to go back.
Yes, I have. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah.
Good luck with your daughter, right?
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.